what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a full guide for ranked this season. So we've got 3 new modifiers. We've of course got the classic modifier as well. We're going to be going through every single mode, every single map with competitive data, and just of course me pushing all the way up to legendary, playing a lot of ranked. Hopefully you guys can gain a lot of elo through watching this. So I really appreciate you guys' support on this video. Make sure to subscribe for future content like this. I put hours and days into guides like this, so I do really appreciate you guys' support. Anyways, let's jump in with the modifiers first then. So we're going to be looking at timed detonation. So with timed detonation, the map will slowly break completely open, and for me this is just literally one of the easiest modifiers because you just take a look at all of the long-range brawlers and you need to go them. Of course, there's some stronger ones, so I'll be going into that. So the best brawlers, of course, are going to be Piper, Nanny, and Leon. More often than not, Nanny and Piper are banned, but if they're not, just take them straight away. You'll get a win. And then other good brawlers, right? You've got Belle, you've got Fang, because Fang's a good counter against the snipers. Meg also being a good counter as well. 8-bit, if there's just other snipers that have been taken, he can be a decent last option. B, Angelo, Mandy, Artie, Brock, but as I said, range is the name of the game in time detonation. Literally, the map will open up in 45 seconds, 1 minute. So the meta is just the same in every single map and every scenario. So the next modifier is going to be Big Friend. So I've already briefly gone into the top 5 brawlers on a separate video, but I'll just recap it for you guys so you get to understand this game mode a little bit better. So of course, Big Friend, you want to be making sure that you got 1 high HP brawler on your team, and then 2 brawlers which are better with more HP, which of course a lot of brawlers are. But you want the heavy damage hitters as well, because of course everyone's going to be a tank, so the more damage on your team, the better. So the best brawlers for me, I would say the likes of Colette, Frank, and maybe some other high HP brawlers that have some decent range like 8-bit and Pam. But it depends on the game mode as well, right? Like, you can't just pick Frank on bounty or knockout. It's not going to work. So you want to go longer range high HP brawlers like Pam, like 8-bit, like Bonnie, for example. Underrated picks for sure. In terms of like other game modes and maps, you know, Brawl, Gem Grab, you want to be going more aggressive tanks. You can get away with playing like BB, Buzz, Primo, Buster, etc. But then there's also brawlers that really do benefit out of the Big Friend modifier, like Meg, for example, who has so much HP in the big mech and the smaller form as well. You've got Pearl, you've got Piper, who hits really hard, so she's actually really good in Big Friend. Leon, there's also a lot of brawlers that have high scaling star powers, you know, like Jean's Magic Puff star power. He actually gains a lot more healing out of his star power the more HP he has, so he can really benefit out of his Big Friend. But you only get this 10% of the time, so I wouldn't actually fret too much about learning about Big Friend, but these are the best options for sure. And lastly, for the modifiers then, we have Quickfire. So again, it will depend a little bit on the map and scenario, but you guys can get a good feeling anyways of when I go through the classic modifier a little bit later on in the video. But in terms of how Quickfire works, the brawlers that have multiple projectiles per ammo will benefit the most out of this modifier. I don't know how many times I need to say this. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, my Power League randoms realize this. The slow reload brawlers will not benefit from this. It's the brawlers with a lot of projectiles. So Jean, Spike, Gale, those are like the 3 top brawlers in my opinion. Jean, he literally is like a machine gun. Non-stop shooting, he's insane. Even in Heist, he's insane. Spike as well, he has a lot of spikes per projectile, right? And of course, him having a slow reload speed is really going to help out the spam. With Curveball, it's like you're never missing. Gale, Griff, Nanny has 3 projectiles. Like, if you want to go a long-range brawler on Shooting Star, you know, you've got Quickfire on Shooting Star or Knockout, anything like that, then Nanny is the go-to. People just select Brock and Piper straight away. No, Nanny has 3 projectiles per shot, so she's going to get a lot more value out of it. You know, Meg as well, she counters other long-range brawlers, but she's also just going to get unlimited ammo. Leon as well. Leon, you can literally play Leon anywhere. In Heist, in Brawl, just everywhere. He deals so much damage. He has so many projectiles. Crazy. Pearl, Chester, Lola, Shelly, Stu, Otis. There's probably so many other brawlers as well, but these are the best ones for sure. So pick these no matter what, because as soon as you get in range, of course, a lot of these are going to get countered by, you know, long range brawlers, but the second you get in range, you can just spam auto aim and melt people so quickly. So please, 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 go the brawlers with a lot of projectiles. So now we're going to be going on to the classic modifier, the one that probably most people care about. So we're going to be starting off with bounty. I will be splitting this up into different chapters in the description, so you guys can just click on the mode, the map that you want to go on at any point in time, and you'll see a graphic pop up on your screen. So Shooting Star, As always, the meta hasn't changed whatsoever, but I'll quickly go through it for you guys. So in terms of first picks, the same old Piper, Nani, Leon is going to be the best. Larry and Laurie and Tick are also good as first picks as well. Just, you know, throwers are a little bit more boring and actually get counted out a little bit more easier in this current meta, but they're still pretty strong. Also, last picks, I wouldn't really be scared of last picks too much. Just make sure that you've not literally got, I don't know, for example, 3 brawlers that are very similar, like Belle, Byron, Mandy, for example, because then you will get probably countered by Mortis, Miko, or Fang. So yeah, just bear that in mind. There's a few good late picks, a few good assassins, but it's not too troublesome. And then there's a lot of good options as well. You know, typically Piper and Nani are going to be banned out, so you're more than likely going to have to go like Belle, Meg, RT, you know, Charlie's a decent option as well. Mandy, there's a lot of good options in Shooting Star. Again, it pretty much is hit your shots, win lane, and you win this map. Next up for Bounty, we have Hideout. So a new map in the ranked rotation. It's been in the game for a while now, so these are going to be your best first picks, last picks, and just best brawlers overall. So in terms of first picks, the same old with Bounty. It's always going to be Piper, Nani, and Leon. Piper and Nani have just got even better within the new meta right now because Hype Charges got nerfed, and that was the big thing kind of holding them back a little bit. So for me, they're like S-tier brawlers absolutely pretty much across the board right now, of course, in particular on Bounty. And then in terms of late picks, of course, the same mold with Bounty, the aggro brawlers like Fang, Mortis, Miko is always going to be pretty prevalent. And then in terms of other options, I think the only thing that's really changed in Hideout from Shooting Star is brawlers like Jean are a lot better. Jean has recently got a buff, and the good thing about Jean is if the enemies have got like a thrower that's just sitting behind a wall, or just in particular shoot anyone behind a wall, Jean has a lot of presence on this map. He can scout the grass easily with his attack, and he got a buff recently to his damage and his gadgets, so he's got a little bit better within Bounty. But again, the same type of brawlers, the same type, you know, Grey is probably a little bit better here than in Shooting Star because you've got the pull through gadget. But again, it's just all about getting the pinches, making sure you're not getting spawn trapped by the throwers, and again, just making sure that you're covered from all angles. You're not getting countered by the assassins, you're not getting countered by the throwers, and you're not getting heavily outranged by the Nannies and the Pipers. And lastly for Bounty, we have XL, so you can see the best compositions on your screen right here. And in terms of this map, it's a lot different than Hideout and Shooting Star. You know, typically you just go range on the other 2 Bounty maps and you win. But on this one, it's a little bit more spammy, so you can probably get away with some weird off-meta picks, I would say. So in terms of the best picks, I would go for like Jean, Charlie, Rico, Leon. I mean, Piper and Nani can be okay, but I would say they're actually a lot easier countered than before. But I think at lower levels, you can probably get away with just going to high damage brawlers. But anyways, XL is very different. You can get away with going brawlers like Rico and Ruffs because it's actually really hard to pinch on this map. There's only a small tile and you really need like a good angle. So that's why bounce brawlers like Rico and Ruffs are insanely underrated. Definitely give it a try. You've got other weird brawlers like Cordelius, for example, who's actually really strong in this map because you can just easily push up to the next wall. You've got the jump gadget. You can just sit behind that wall and then eventually charge up your super automatically. So that's why Buzz actually isn't just a good last pick. It's actually a good early pick as well because of how strong he can be through gaining super automatically by just literally pushing up the map. There's other good options as well. You know, spammy brawlers like Penny, Mr. P can be really annoying. Bo. There's just, I don't know, this map is more about presence, pushing the enemies back into spawn and try and get some weird pinches. It's a hard one to get the grasp of, but I feel like the meta will definitely kind of balance itself out in a week or so. Now moving on to Brawl, starting off with center stage. So you can see the best picks and whatever else on your screen right now. So center stage, of course, there's just so much grass, so it's all about preparing your composition, making sure that you've got at least one brawler minimum that can scout one lane 24/7, because maybe you can have like a Rico lock down one lane and then maybe you can just go sneaky down the other lane with a Sandy of your own or a tank or something like that. That's just kind of how the game goes. Eventually you overwhelm the opponent and then you can score a goal. So in terms of the best first picks, Larry and Laurie is still one of the best brawlers in the game. Of course, the throw on this map is so good. You know, an underrated last pick could be like Grom with the Watchtower gadget, but you know, Larry and Laurie just good against everything. Rico's just really good at locking down a lane. Pop the vision gear on him, you're never gonna miss out on a single brawler. And then of course Gale, Otis, Spike. There's a lot of brawlers with good scouting potential with the vision gear, so make sure to use and abuse that. In terms of late picks, again, it's just tanks. It's Brawl, it's a grassy map, so of course tanks. The best tanks in the game right now are tanks like Buster, Rosa, Doug, El Primo with the new hype charge. Those are ones you want to be trying to look towards at the end of the draft. So there's a lot of good filler options as well on this map. I still feel like I haven't completely explored the meta on it. I've seen a lot of like Buster paired with other brawlers that can sneak up, you know, again, like Sandy, Shelly that can sneak up into the bush, Ems, you know, Jessie is starting to shine a lot in the meta because she can just easily get her hypercharge. There's just so many options on center stage. As I said, you just need to be so careful. People, time and time again, just walk into the bush and don't check the grass. So make sure you're doing that at all costs. But there's just so many options for this super balanced meta. But make sure to try and pick those first picks. Up in Brawl, we have Pinball Dreams, so you can see the best picks on your screen right here. But we're kind of moving back to the previous metas in Draft, where Brawl is very rock, paper, scissors. By that, I mean, if you're not preparing in your compositions well enough, the opponents can pick a really good sixth pick. So sixth pick is just so strong right here because, you know, for example, if you go with two lanes like Spike or another squishy lane, and then the enemy has last pick, they can just pick Barley, Willow, or Dynamite and just completely destroy you. So you've got to make sure you got all avenues covered. You've got to have at least one brawler that can start some form of aggression, whether that's Leon, Stu, Cordelius, I don't know, just something. It's something that can open up a wall or has a lot of HP that can push the enemies back. You've got to make sure that you're covered on all avenues. And you've also got to make sure that you've got a tank counter in there. So you've got to have a mid brawler that's good at destroying tanks. So whether that's Jessie, whether that's Charlie, whether that's, I don't know, an inconvenient one like Pearl, because Pearl can be pretty good on this Brawl map in particular because you can open up a lane with your super and you can just melt through tanks as well. And then, as I said, if you've got late pick yourself, you want to be making sure you're focusing on brawlers like Primo, Buzz, all of these other options. Pinball Dreams is a pretty sketchy one, to be honest. Like, it can be super slow to start off with, but as soon as one brawler gets pinched and you lose lane, you kind of just get spawn trapped. So you're kind of relying off those breakaway plays to really make an impact on this map. But again, there's nothing really too overpowering on this map. Lastly, in the Brawl rotation, we have a new map and it's Goalkeepers Dream. So this is literally a brand new map in the game. I've only played this map maybe 2 times, so I don't fully grasp this meta just yet, but looking at the competitive data, these should be the best picks in my opinion. So with Goalkeepers Dreams, it's super open, but at the same time the lanes are super closed. So if you can get a good last pick, again, this is just how the Brawl meta is, you can dominate. So I've seen teams go like Sprout last pick or Thrower last pick, and it can dominate. If you haven't got any type of aggression or wall break, they will just run through your team. Anyways, the best first picks is still going to be Charlie, Leon, Larry, and Laurie. Those are like the best 3 brawlers in the game right now. You can just never go wrong with going them, to be honest. That's why I just recommend them, even though, like I said, it's a balanced meta, so they can get countered. You can't just go them and win, but that's just a safe option to go pretty much early on. In terms of late picks, I already explained Cordelius, Buzz, Dino, all of these aggro picks. And then there's a lot of other filler options. You know, again, it's a super open map, so you want to be making sure you're using those long-range brawlers. Like, I would say a little bit on the safer side, go brawlers like Belle, probably Meg, Piper, even more a lot safer than Nanny. Like, you could go Nanny as a late pick, but Nanny can get overwhelmed pretty easily, especially on Brawl. So probably leave that towards the end of draft. You can go other good long range brawlers that are kind of a good filler. Like Amber, for example, is so good on this map in particular because she's got the range, she's got the super to block off a lot of that midsection. She's just perfect for this map, in my opinion. And then there's a lot of good spammy options that are starting to come through, like Penny, Ruffs, other brawlers that are quite defensive. You know, Jessie, Buster, I've seen work out on the lane pretty easily. There's so many options on this map, but again, it's just super stale. It's normally like you get 1 kill and then you can quickly score because the map is just so open in terms of the goal. But this is a messy one. I honestly couldn't really pinpoint a direct meta with this. Now moving on to gem grab, starting off with Minecart Madness. You can see the best picks on your screen right here. Minecart Madness, another crazy one. This one's always been in favor of late picks. Again, to me, the composition, you can be okay for the majority of the part. Like, I don't think draft matters too much. I think it's more to do with the RNG with the minecarts, right? If you get first minecart, you're pretty much going to win every single time. So yeah, this one, I don't know, I think I've played it a few times and it's incredibly sketchy. Anyways, these are the best picks for you. So in terms of best picks, you want to go Charlie, Leon, or Larry. I mean, they're just bulletproof. You can never go really wrong with them. And then late picks, you know, Sprout is really strong on Minecart Madness. Miko, he's just so easy to dodge the trains and just jump straight onto a lane. And then, of course, Dynamite or any pretty much assassin brawler. But in terms of brawlers, I was pretty surprised about when I looked at the data. You know, brawlers like Spike are really excellent on this map. Always been pretty good, especially with the super. You can just shut down an area so easily, like even more so. So that's why he's good. You know, Amber as well. You can throw the oil and just limit the brawler's movement even more. And that's why you see other brawlers like Bow become really strong because they're just decent with good range, but then you've got the mines to block open a point as well. So you've got the Minecart coming around, you've got bow mines, you've got spike supers, amber supers, you know, kind of build your composition around really spammy toxic stuff and you should be good to go. You know, Pearl is just a solid lane, kind of even put towards the mid in terms of mid brawlers as well. Just a generic like Piper, you've got Belle, Nanny, Jean, a lot of good mid options, Meg. And in terms of lanes, you know, you've got Leon, of course. You've got brawlers like Colette, Stu. There's just so many options in this meta. It's really hard to define a few. But at least the brawlers at the top of the graphic towards the beginning are going to be your better options. So next up in gem grab, we have double swoosh. So these are your best options on the screen. In terms of first picks, again, it's just the same old. I feel like Leon's not as strong on this map in comparison to other maps, but he's still a really good first pick. In terms of the mid brawlers, then we'll switch you up a little bit. So in terms of mids, there's a lot of good options that you can go. There's a lot of ways you can switch around mids. Like I've seen some good strategies in there where people are going like Gray and Jackie. That's a bit more advanced kind of strategy, but you know, in last year in competitive, so many teams went Gray mid and then went a tank. So you pretty much like suicide in with Gray with his super, but get it this teleport into the grass, and then a Jackie, a Rosa, or any type of aggro can just keep teleporting in, getting pressure, whilst your gem carrier can then just pick up gems pretty easily. But again, in terms of more simplified mids, you can go Jessie, Jean, Bo. You can go the likes of even Janet mid. I've seen Stu go mid sometimes. Pearl, Sandy can even go mid, and that's why Sandy is one of the best brawlers on this map, because you can send Sandy lane, you can send Sandy mid, and you're going to get a lot of value out of Sandy because that super just covers the entire grass with rude sands. He can scout out the grass so easily. In terms of late picks, again, you just got to worry about tanks, not so much throwers at all, really, because there's so much grass that they can't really do anything. So maybe Larry and Laurie, maybe a bit overrated on this map, but still they're just broken. So I wouldn't even advise leaving them out the ban. But again, there's just a typical double swoosh brawlers, which you've always seen on this map. You know, the likes of Amber, really good down the lane, especially with the super. The likes of Tara, still pretty good on this map with the pets pushing brawlers back. Buster, even with the 1% damage nerf, he's still pretty good brawler overall. So many options to pick from. And finally, for gem grab, we have a new map, which is Rustic Arcade. So these are best picks on your screen. So say like the best first picks probably changed a little bit here. I would rather ban out, for example, like a Piper or a Nanny instead of Larry and Laurie or Charlie, for example. But again, there's multiple good first picks that you can choose from. But again, the big point is I just could never let my teammates get Piper and the enemy team get Piper or Nanny, because they just shred through everyone on this map because it's such an open map. So they can abuse that as a mid and not really feel like they're going to get flanked by an assassin, because again, the lanes are just so open. In terms of other good options as well, you know, Belle always escapes a ban period. She's got a hyper charge as well now, so she can easily turn around the game as a gem carrier. So that is a good thing to have in your pocket. There's other good underrated brawlers as well, which you've probably seen on stream. For example, Meg is insanely underrated because you can send Meg mid, for example, if the enemy team manages to get like Piper or Nanny to counter them. Or you can send Meg lane, because what you can do with literally your attack, you can shoot around the wall. So for example, I faced Larry down the lane and Meg literally hard countered Larry because I could hit him and he couldn't. It's just a really good strategy. Again, you want brawlers that can peek around that left and right lane wall easily with range. So brawlers like Rico, Amber, you've got Ruffs, you've got Spike, you've got a good chunk of brawlers there that can pinch. To be honest, again, last pick I don't think is that influential on this map because there's just so much openness that throwers are going to get countered and tanks are going to get countered. So go range and you should be good on this map. So now we're moving on to Heist, starting off with Safe Zone. These are going to be your best picks on this map. So in terms of first pick, Larry, Colette, and Colt are going to be your best options. Of course, Larry and Laurie, there's so many walls on this map. You can just abuse the Heist safe and just everyone in general. Colette, of course, in Heist is broken, and same with Colt as well. So in terms of other picks as well, we've of course got the mid section where there's a lot of good brawlers in the mid. You can go for Nanny, you can go for Piper, you can go for just literally Chuck to use his tracks for the middle. One of the best brawlers for sure on this map. I'd say that mid doesn't actually matter too much. There's a lot of good options. Even Belle as well can be a safe option as well. In terms of lanes then, I think the better options are still going to be the likes of Charlie. Charlie just counters everything at the moment, and is actually really good in Heist if you can get onto the high safe and just counter to a lot of the aggression. You know, as a late pick, counters Chuck as well, for example. So that's why Charlie's so good. 8-bit is just still so insanely strong. Normally the best counters to 8-bit are like Colette, Brock, Colt, Piper. So if some of those are already picked or on your team, he can pair really well as well with high damage brawlers. So you get an 8-bit with a Colt, for example, you're just going to shred the safe so easily. On the lanes as well, you got to make sure you got at least one kind of okay brawler for defense, whether that's like an Eve, whether that's just an easier to hit brawler like Cordelius, Amber, you know, even Jessie down the lane can be pretty good as well. There's a lot of decent options in safe zone, but again, it is Heist and hype charge brawlers or just high damage brawlers will be the key to victory here. So next up we have Bridge to Faster. As you can see on the screen, these are the best picks on Bridge to Faster. Normally range is the name of the game here, and damage of course. So those are brawlers like Nanny, Piper, Colt, 8-bit, Larry and Laurie, Colette. The typical Heist brawlers are going to be insane on this map. In terms of Angelo as well, by the way, like Angelo's going to be really good on the really long range maps, but I'm not too sure how he fits into the other metas, so I'll have to test him out more. That's why you might not have seen him too much on this. He's a bit of a weird brawler. He can work really well for high skill players, but I think on Heist, I feel like he might get overwhelmed a bit too much. Again, I'll have to test him out. Maybe he's a good sleeper pick. I mean, Eve's good on this map, so Angelo might be decent. Anyways, going into other brawlers, like I said, Eve really good. Brock is a solid pick on this map because normally other brawlers are just picked ahead of him, so he can kind of sneak through, and he's always consistent against everything. Charlie's still insane down the lane and just good against everything, especially spamming the Spiders gadget. You've got other underrated picks as well. You know, Chuck is just still really good in Heist. You've got Amber, who's able to lock down lane easily and still deal a lot of good damage. And you've got some good late picks as well. I'll say late pick isn't too strong. You've got to be really good to make it work. But there's some good late ones like Edgar, Grom, Daryl, Bull. There's a few couple of good ones. But anyways, that's going to be Bridge too far. I'd say the meta hasn't changed too much. Finally, for Heist, we have Pit Stop. So these are the best brawlers for this map, in my opinion. So literally this map is just so base race heavy. You can get away with picking tanks early on. You can just run at people non-stop and you'll eventually overwhelm them, especially brawlers with hype charge. So you can see at the top of the list, you've got brawlers like Primo. Cordelius is insane on this map because you can easily defend against a tank, and then you can easily just teleport your way around the map. You can like defend, for example, and then after you got the kill, or not even after you got a kill, you could just leave like a low damage brawler on the safe. I don't know, Colette without super, for example, and you can just run to the enemy safe and then deal insane damage. You've got Buzz. He's just going to be really good with hype charge. BB with hype charge, insane on this map. And then you always need like a good kind of middle ground brawler. So again, whether that's Cordelius, whether that's a Ruffs, whether that's Rico, whether it's Spike, there's loads of filler brawlers. There's so many of them. Nita, for example, you've got Charlie, Stu. It all depends on how your composition is looking, but I won't go more than 2 control brawlers if I'm honest, because you could literally be spawn trapping them for 2 minutes of the game, but then all it could take is like a hype charge Bull or a hype charge BB or a hype charge Edgar to get so much damage on the safe. I mean, damage is the name of the game in a Heist, right? There's so many brawlers right now that have so much potential to just delete a high safe. In terms of last pick as well, of course, throwers can be very prevalent as well, but if you've easily got at least one aggro brawler, you shouldn't be too worried about the throws like Dynamite, Barley, Willow, or even Sprout with his hype charge. So a lot of options on this map, but it's just complete base race. It's just assessing what brawlers you're facing off against and whether you can win the base race. So now we're moving on to Hot Zone, starting off with Dueling Beetles. So these are the best picks on your screen right here. So the same old with Dueling Beetles, we've got the same type of brawlers that have always been really strong as the first pick. So the likes of Stu, Charlie, Larry, Leon are all really good first pick brawlers. And then there's actually a lot of brawlers that have kind of came up in the rankings. So Jessie's always been decent on Dueling Beetles, but right now, ever since the hype charge buff, she's insane on this map. If you can get a 10k turret behind that unbreakable wall, it's just so good for control. Belle as well has always been like a good pick on Dueling Beetles, but again, since the hypercharge, she's just got even better, because if you compare Belle with like maybe like a Griff or a Stu wall break, Belle can just absolutely clap like lane and middle. Just make sure she's not on the unbreakable wall side, and you're just completely sold with Belle. You've also got underrated options with, I don't know, like Doug and Poco, for example. There can be a few combinations you can go if you can get rid of a lot of good tank counters out there. I know the likes of Griff, Charlie, a few other options, Jessie. If they're not in play, then you can definitely go with some cheesy options like Grey and a tank, or Poco and a tank. You know, Poco, again, is underrated, as I said. Again, there's some generic options like Lou is a really good option, but you got to be careful with Lou because he can get countered out by just other mid-brawlers like Stu, Jesse. I don't know, brawlers that are easier to hit shots with consistently, but you can never go wrong with Lou, especially with his hyper charge. Again, there's a lot of consistent brawlers out there that people underrate, like Cordelius can be pretty good, but as a later pick, we have the likes of Gale, who can be really good, especially once he starts pushing up behind that wall. I don't know, a lot of picks on Dueling Beetles. For me, it's all about using your supers to establish a lot of control. So next up for Hot Zone, we have Ring of Fire, and you can see the best picks on your screen right here. So in terms of the best first picks, again, I still think Larry's just insane. You've still got a few other brothers like Leon, Charlie that are really good, but I think in terms of just solid picks that aren't really counted by a whole lot of things, Pam is so good on Ring of Fire with her recent addition to the, well, it's not even recent, just the addition to the buff of the amount of healing you get. She's so good on Hot Zone. It's like the only really viable game mode for her right now, and she's so strong. There's a lot of good filler options as well. You know, Stu, he pretty much has a good matchup against everyone on this map. He gets so much value and just so much aggression with Stu on this map. Amber, of course. Amber, even since the nerfs, is still pretty good, by the way. Really underrated. Her play rates in scrims are still really high, so definitely recommend her. Specifically in Hot Zone, of course, the super covers the whole area. Lou's still going to be really good, even though, you know, typically you can go different mids like, I don't know, Bell, Bo, that can counter Lou. He still just needs one super, and that's so much zone percentage guaranteed for you because it's only a single zone, so he's really good on a map like this. You've also, again, you've got brawlers that came out up into the meta like Jessie. Even though she might get outranged, still she gets her hypercharge turret so fast. You've got Cordelius that can wreak havoc down the lanes. You can definitely still go like an aggro brawler down the lanes, but I don't think they're as important anymore. But you can still get away with, like, I don't know, like a Buster, Leon, Cordelius trying to get in behind. And in terms of late picks, I don't think there's too many late picks that are really like overwhelming. You might struggle against the likes of like Penny, Mr. P, but I can't really think of any others. So Ring of Fire, try and send two brawlers down the middle, one down the lane, making sure they're either flanking or not allowing anyone to sneak in behind you. And lastly for Hot Zone, we have Split. So again, a map that everyone should be familiar with by now. It always comes and goes out of the rotation. But right now, I think the meta's kind of shifted a bit more to a few certain brawlers. So again, the best brawlers for Split are always going to be the same type of brawlers, like Barley's or Barley, Willow, or just a throw in general can just be really good at pinching either lane, super consistent across the board. Even though you're probably vulnerable against some aggro picks, I just think you can never really go wrong with a thrower. And then you've got other good lane picks as well. You know, Charlie, Leon's still insane. Rico's really good at locking down the lane, but I think Ruffs might actually be the better option because the thing about Ruffs is that you've got your sandbags, or it depends on the matchup, right? But you've got two decent gadgets, and then if, for example, if your enemy team normally go Ruffs down the right hand side, if your enemy team is struggling to gain control on the left, you've got his super to break open the wall, and that makes it a lot easier to push into the zone and get more percentage. So, and of course, Ruffs and Rico just down the right hand side are just so good at locking down and defending. You've also got good options as well. Cordelius is insane on this map because you can just straight away push up on the right hand side and get so much charging, and then you've got the jump gadget just to wreak havoc on throwers or counter enemy aggression. You've got Griff to open up the map with Piggy Bank, and his recent damage buff has made him really good. Stu will always be consistent on this map with breakthrough gadget and just being able to counter so many different things. Jesse's a good pick, can get counted out by throwers, but if there's no thrower, then Jesse can do a lot of damage, especially with the hyper charge turret. Gray just so good with the walking cane. Gale can be good defensive. So if we think about pure compositions, you've got to make sure that you've got a good high DPS brawler on the right hand side, whether that be, again, Jesse, Gale, good defensive brawler, Rico, Russ, and then making sure that you've got one aggressive brawler on the left hand side. So whether that be like the likes of Buster, Miko, Primo, Tanks can be really good down this left. So yeah, kind of mixing things up. Tank, thrower, and have a heavy damage dealer, and you should be pretty good on Split. So moving on to the final game mode, we have Knockout, and starting off with Bell's Rock. So this map has actually changed a little bit. It's nowhere near as toxic. It's not lane matchup dependent as normal, and also, you know, if someone goes in the middle, they're not just going to get killed every single time. So the game plays, well, the map plays a little bit more differently, but I think the best brawler picks haven't really changed whatsoever. So in terms of the best picks, then you're probably safer with going a brawler that is just good against everything, but at the same time, you still want those high damage brawlers. So Piper, Nanny going to be good. Leon, Jean going to be good filler options. Gray as well, going to be good against throwers, and then good against just snipers. And Gray has always been good on this map, especially on Bell's Rock, because you've got the unbreakable walls and you've just got walls in general where you can push up close to, and then your gadget pretty much is a free super or a free kill every single time. Charlie's still just insane everywhere. The Spider's gadget means you can counter the snipers, and then it allows you to push up behind the walls, and then you can wall peek easily. You can then just get so much pressure, it's just easy. Jean is becoming a lot more prevalent within the knockout and bounty meta again, since the damage buff has really helped him out. In terms of other picks as well, you know, Mandy, if Piper and Nanny are banned, you can probably go Mandy. Is a little bit more riskier. Throwers, of course, always being good on Bell's Rock, so whether you can get your hands on the better throwers like Larry and Laurie, or whether that's the likes of Tick, Sprout, I don't know, throwers are just always good on Bell's Rock. And then late picks, again, you got to be careful, because late picks, you got Miko, you got Fang. I wouldn't really say they're as counterable as other knockout bounty maps, but still got to be careful of them. So next up in knockout, we have Out in the Open. So again, I really feel like the meta hasn't changed really at all on Out in the Open, to be honest. It's pretty much completely the same as last time. So in terms of the best picks on Out in the Open, you've got the likes of Brock being able to break open. That spawn is just so good, because if you didn't know, in Out in the Open, essentially if you lose control, there's no way except for like a launch pad down the left or just a really tight gap down the right. So having a wall break on your team, even if it's like Pearl, Nanny, Piper, like eventually you can open that wall. So for example, what I like to do if I've got a Nanny or a Pearl, even if I lose the first round, I'll use my Nanny people, my Piper super to break open that back wall. So it means I've got two ways to push back into spawn, so I'm not fully spawn trapped. So that's just Out in Open in general. In terms of brawlers that I really love, that are really polarizing, we've got the likes of Charlie, we've got the likes of Meg, who I just absolutely love. Even if you're not facing off against snipers, I just love Meg, because again, this map is all about pressure. It's all about trying to land some shots and then forcing the opponents back into spawn, because it's literally a free win. If they're in spawn, they literally have to walk into your shots. So that's why I just love brawlers like that. Pearl is just insane on this map. There's so much grass and you can easily build up your heat. Combine that with the overcooked gadget and literally the enemies are just cooked. Pearl is so scary in this map. You've got even Angelo down the left hand side, can be pretty solid overall. Of course, Leon being good, and some good off meta picks. You've got the likes of like 8-Bit, Mandy, Bo, the Bell can be pretty decent as well. But yeah, it's just the same old with Out in the Open. And finally, moving on to the new map. In the rotation, we have New Horizons. So again, I feel like I'm not too confident on this one, but these are still like the best picks in terms of what the pros have been playing. So the best picks will always be on Knockout and Bounty, the same old Leon, Charlie, Larry and Laurie, Jean, Piper, Nanny, etc, etc. But there's a few other strategies you can go here. I think throwers are so dominant on this map, you need at least one thrower in my opinion, or something that can counter them. So you go throw yourself, or you go like a Miko to counter it last pick, or a Leon to counter it, or a Kit, or just a wall break. There's got to be something to counter them, Gray, or else they'll just completely push you into spawn. So lock in that thrower. Even if you pick it early on, you still can have a good success rate. Again, you've just got to get a sniper in the middle. So whether that's the likes of Nanny, Piper, Bell, Brock, Mandy, Meg, you know, there's a lot of good options in terms of the snipers. But yeah, I'm not too confident on this, but I'll just give you guys a bunch of different options. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I feel like I'm not as confident as before in previous metas, because the meta is so balanced. You can go so many different brawlers. It's hard to really lock in like the complete best options, especially because we haven't seen any competitive as well, which that's going to be happening in a few weeks time. So I fully know the meta by then, but these are just my picks from going a lot in ranks, you know, got me up to legendary, and also some scrim data as well. So I really appreciate you guys' support on this. It took a long time to really digest it and try and solidify the meta as much as possible. Also, I haven't really gone into detail on like draft strategies and stuff like that, because there's just so many brawlers and there's just so many bad randoms that you really don't need to like theorize the draft too much. You just got to make sure that you're increasing the chances of you winning so much by these good picks, and not distract too much from your bad randoms and their bad picks. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.